Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Jacques Derrida in Discourse Analysis. Jacques Derrida, a French philosopher and the founder of deconstruction, has had a profound influence on discourse analysis, particularly in the way we understand language, meaning, and the construction of reality. His work challenges traditional ideas about how language functions, questioning the stability of meaning and the authority of texts. In discourse analysis, Derrida's concepts are used to explore how language both constructs and deconstructs social, political, and cultural realities. 1. Key concepts of Jacques Derrida in discourse analysis. Deconstruction. Unpacking the structure of texts. Deconstruction is Derrida's most well-known concept and serves as a critical method for analyzing texts. In discourse analysis, deconstruction is employed to uncover the hidden assumptions, contradictions, and power dynamics within a text. Rather than seeking a single, unified meaning, deconstruction aims to show how meaning is unstable, contingent, and open to multiple interpretations. Binary oppositions. Deconstruction examines the binary oppositions, such as male, female, reason, emotion, that structure texts and discourse, revealing how these binaries are hierarchical and how one term is often privileged over the other. Revealing contradictions. By deconstructing a text, analysts can expose the internal contradictions that undermine its apparent coherence and authority. Example: in a legal document that opposes justice to law, a deconstructionist analysis might reveal how the text simultaneously upholds the law while acknowledging that justice is not always served by legal systems. This contradiction destabilizes the text's authority. Différance. The endless play of meaning. Différance is a key term Derrida coined to express the idea that meaning in language is never fixed but always deferred. Meaning arises not from a direct relationship between a word and its referent but from the differences between words within a linguistic system. In discourse analysis, this concept is used to explore how meaning is constantly shifting and how texts can never fully capture or convey a stable truth. Deferral of meaning. Meaning is always postponed as words refer to other words, creating a chain of signification without a final, absolute meaning. Difference in language. The concept also highlights how words gain meaning through their difference from other words, emphasizing the relational nature of language. Example: the word democracy has different meanings in different contexts, political, social, historical, and these meanings are always in flux. A discourse analyst might explore how democracy is used differently in various political speeches, showing how its meaning shifts depending on the speaker's agenda and the audience's expectations. Textuality. Expanding the notion of the text, Derrida broadened the concept of a text to include not just written documents but all forms of communication, including speech, images, and cultural practices. In discourse analysis, this expanded notion allows analysts to treat any cultural artifact as a text that can be deconstructed to reveal its underlying assumptions and power dynamics. Intertextuality. Texts are seen as interconnected, constantly referring to and reshaping each other. No text exists in isolation, it is always part of a larger network of texts. The infinite text. Derrida argued that because every text is part of this broader network, there is no outside of the text. Meaning is always contextual and intertextual. Example: a deconstructionist might analyze a film not just as a narrative but as a text that interacts with other films, cultural references, and social discourses. For example, a superhero movie could be deconstructed to reveal how it draws on and subverts traditional narratives of heroism and power. The metaphysics of presence. Questioning the stability of meaning. Derrida's critique of the metaphysics of presence challenges the idea that meaning is directly tied to the presence of a clear, stable referent, such as an author's intended meaning or a concrete reality. He argued that Western thought has traditionally privileged presence, such as the spoken word, over absence, such as writing, creating a hierarchy that deconstruction seeks to overturn. Absence and presence. In discourse analysis, this concept is used to explore how texts create meaning through what is absent as much as through what is present, showing how meaning is constructed through omissions and silences. Decentering the subject. Derrida's work decentered the notion of a fixed, authoritative subject, such as an author or speaker, suggesting that meaning is created through a dynamic interplay of textual elements rather than a singular source. Example: in analyzing a historical speech, a discourse analyst might examine not only what the speaker says but also what is left unsaid, what groups, perspectives, or events are omitted, and how these absences shape the meaning of the speech. The critique of logocentrism. Challenging the privileging of speech over writing. Logocentrism refers to the tendency in Western philosophy to privilege speech over writing, viewing the spoken word as more direct and authentic. Derrida challenged this view by arguing that writing is not secondary to speech but is fundamental to the structure of language and meaning. Speech and writing. Derrida showed that writing is not a mere representation of speech but plays a crucial role in how meaning is constructed and understood. Deconstruction of logocentrism. In discourse analysis, this critique allows analysts to explore how texts privilege certain forms of communication over others and how this shapes meaning. Example: a discourse analyst might deconstruct a literary work that relies heavily on dialogue, examining how the text structure privileges spoken language while marginalizing other forms of expression, such as nonverbal cues or visual imagery. Point 2. Examples of Derrida's influence in discourse analysis. Example 1. Deconstructing legal discourse. Legal discourse often presents itself as objective and authoritative, but Derrida's approach reveals how legal texts are constructed through binary oppositions and how these oppositions can be destabilized. Binary opposition. A law might distinguish between legal and illegal actions, privileging the former as morally superior. Deconstruction can reveal how this binary is constructed and how the distinction is not as clear-cut as it seems. Undecidability. Legal texts often contain ambiguities that allow for multiple interpretations. A deconstructionist analysis might explore these ambiguities to show how legal meanings are contingent and open to reinterpretation. Example: a deconstructionist analysis of anti-immigration laws might reveal how the binary between citizen and alien is constructed and how this binary serves to exclude and marginalize certain groups, challenging the notion of legal objectivity. Example 2. Deconstructing media discourse. Media texts often rely on established narratives and conventions that can be deconstructed to reveal underlying assumptions and power structures. Textuality. By treating a news report as a text, a deconstructionist can analyze how it interacts with other reports, historical references, and cultural stereotypes to construct a particular version of reality. Différance. A discourse analyst might examine how the meaning of a term like terrorism shifts depending on its use in different media contexts, showing how its meaning is never fixed but constantly deferred. Example: a deconstructionist might analyze how media coverage of a conflict constructs binary oppositions between us and them, revealing how these constructions reinforce certain power dynamics and marginalize alternative perspectives. Example 3. Deconstructing political speeches. Political speeches often employ rhetoric that can be deconstructed to reveal the tensions and contradictions within the text. The metaphysics of presence. A political speech might present itself as straightforward and authoritative, but deconstruction can reveal how its meaning is shaped by what is not said, by the absences and omissions that structure the speech. Logocentrism. A deconstructionist might analyze how a speech privileges spoken language and rhetoric while marginalizing other forms of communication, such as visual imagery or written documents. Example: in analyzing a presidential inaugural address, a discourse analyst might deconstruct how the speech constructs national identity through binary oppositions, e.g., freedom versus tyranny, and how these oppositions mask underlying complexities and contradictions. Conclusion. Jacques Derrida's ideas have deeply influenced discourse analysis, providing tools to explore how language constructs and deconstructs meaning, power, and identity. Through concepts like deconstruction, différance, textuality, the metaphysics of presence, and the critique of logocentrism, Derrida's work allows discourse analysts to uncover the hidden assumptions, contradictions, and power dynamics within texts. By applying these concepts to various forms of discourse, legal, media, political, and beyond, analysts can reveal the instability and complexity of meaning, challenging traditional interpretations and opening up new possibilities for understanding language and its role in society. Frequently asked questions. Who is Jacques Derrida? And what is his contribution to discourse analysis? Jacques Derrida was a French philosopher known for founding the critical approach of deconstruction. His work has significantly influenced discourse analysis by challenging traditional ideas about language, meaning, and the authority of texts. Derrida's concepts help analysts explore how language constructs and deconstructs social, political, and cultural realities. What is deconstruction in the context of discourse analysis? Deconstruction is a method developed by Derrida that involves critically analyzing texts to uncover hidden assumptions, contradictions, and power dynamics. In discourse analysis, deconstruction seeks to show that meaning is unstable, contingent, and open to multiple interpretations rather than fixed or singular. How does Derrida's concept of différance apply to discourse analysis? Différance is a concept that describes how meaning in language is never fixed but always deferred and created through the differences between words. In discourse analysis, différance is used to explore how meanings are constantly shifting and how texts cannot fully capture or convey a stable truth, revealing the fluidity of language. What does Derrida mean by textuality, and how is it relevant to discourse analysis? Derrida expanded the concept of text to include all forms of communication, spoken language, images, cultural practices, anything that can be interpreted. This broadened notion allows discourse analysts to deconstruct any cultural artifact as a text, revealing its underlying assumptions and power dynamics. What is the metaphysics of presence, and how does it relate to discourse analysis? The metaphysics of presence is a concept Derrida used to critique the idea that meaning is directly tied to a clear, stable referent, like an author's intended meaning. Derrida argued that Western thought has traditionally privileged presence, e.g., spoken word, over absence, e.g., writing, creating a hierarchy. In discourse analysis, this concept helps explore how texts create meaning through what is absent as much as through what is present. What is logocentrism, and how did Derrida challenge it? Logocentrism refers to the tendency in Western philosophy to privilege speech over writing, viewing spoken words as more direct and authentic. Derrida challenged this view by arguing that writing is fundamental to the structure of language and meaning, not secondary to speech. In discourse analysis, this critique allows analysts to explore how texts privilege certain forms of communication over others. How can Derrida's ideas be applied to legal discourse analysis? In legal discourse, deconstruction can be used to reveal how legal texts are constructed through binary oppositions, e.g., legal, illegal, and how these oppositions can be destabilized. By analyzing the ambiguities and contradictions in legal language, a deconstructionist approach shows that legal meanings are contingent and open to reinterpretation, challenging the idea of legal objectivity. How does Derrida's concept of intertextuality influence discourse analysis? Derrida's notion of intertextuality suggests that no text exists in isolation. Every text refers to and reshapes other texts. This concept in discourse analysis means that meaning is always contextual and part of a larger network of texts. Analysts can use this idea to explore how text interacts with other texts and cultural references to create meaning. Can you provide an example of how deconstruction can be applied to media discourse? In media discourse, deconstruction might involve analyzing how news reports construct binary oppositions, such as us versus them, to reinforce certain power dynamics. By examining how terms like terrorism shift in meaning depending on context, a deconstructionist analysis reveals the fluidity of these concepts and challenges the stability of media narratives. How does Derrida's critique of binary oppositions apply to political discourse? In political discourse, binary oppositions like freedom, tyranny are often used to construct national identity and justify policies. Derrida's critique reveals that these binaries are not natural but constructed, and they can be destabilized by showing how both terms depend on each other for meaning. This approach exposes the underlying complexities and contradictions in political rhetoric. How does Derrida's concept of absence and presence impact the analysis of texts? Derrida's concept of absence and presence in discourse analysis explores how texts create meaning not only through what is explicitly stated but also through what is omitted or left unsaid. This analysis can reveal hidden power dynamics, showing how omissions shape the meaning of a text and influence its interpretation. Why is Derrida's work considered challenging yet influential in discourse analysis? Derrida's work is challenging because it questions fundamental assumptions about language, meaning, and interpretation, often leading to complex and abstract arguments. However, it is highly influential because it provides powerful tools for analyzing the instability of meaning and uncovering the hidden structures and power dynamics within texts. His concepts open up new ways of understanding how language functions in society. How can Derrida's ideas be used to analyze historical narratives? In analyzing historical narratives, Derrida's concepts can reveal how these narratives are constructed through omissions, binary oppositions, and intertextual references. A deconstructionist approach might explore how a historical text relies on specific sources while omitting others, shaping a particular interpretation of events that reinforces certain power structures. By uncovering these elements, analysts can challenge traditional historical accounts and highlight the complexity of history.